Hello, my name's Elijah Wells, and today's review is Derek Kanefance's new movie, Roofman. The movie follows Jeffrey Manchester, played by Channing Tatum in this movie, as he's a famous thief who goes around robbing McDonalds by entering through the roof by cutting a hole in the roof and putting all the workers that were on shift at that point in the freezers and giving them coats and robbing them with their cash and just fleeing the scene before the police turn up. And after a jail stint, he robs some more McDonald's, and this time he squats in a Toys R Us store behind a hollow wall that has like bikes on display. While squatting in the Toys R Us, he falls in love with the employee in the store, being Lee, played by Kirsten Dunst in the movie. And of course, he has to balance that double life, being the love interest and as well as a thief on the run. Derek Kanefance, who's known for his dramatic films like Blue Valentine, A Place Beyond the Pines, and The Light Between the Oceans. Particularly, this is his first film he had released in 9 years, with his previous movie being The Light Between the Oceans, as well as being a co-writer of the movie Sound of Metal, which was considered one of the best films of 2020, despite the fact it was by default due to the COVID pandemic. And now, this time, with Channing Tatum in the lead, as well as Kirsten Dunst, who's pretty much on a rollout at the moment, particularly with Civil War, which came out a couple of years ago, which is a film I do personally like as well. And particularly, he's going into a more comedic route, as opposed from his more serious and more downbeat and more down-to-earth films like I've previously mentioned. Even though the movie is marketed as a comedy, the movie does definitely have some comedic moments, but there's also some dramatic moments as well as movie. And even though it is not in a way that is like totally misleading, but it's definitely done in a way that I actually find it pretty compelling, that it does both comedy and dramatic stuff like in equal measures, to the point it doesn't completely alienate the audiences that were expecting a more light-hearted adventure about a strange but true thief that squats in a Toys R Us store. But in its more comedic moments that did personally stand out to me, like particularly when Jeffrey is like mucking about in the store when it's all nighttime and all the employees are away, and of course where he freaks out the manager Mitch after he got spotted naked, like mucking about and using the staff bathroom as essentially as a shower, which again seeing Channing Tatum's butt cheeks is also just incredibly hilarious, and just how he completely freaks out on it. And of course there was that Sight and Sound interview which the director did, and it does definitely point to like a lot of like silent actors and how very physically demanding they were, and how that was channeled into this movie, and particularly in those scenes. I can get the essence of the science of a silent film actor, like mucking about again with minimal dialogue, which again I can get that essence from it a little bit. Just like the comedy, the more dramatic stuff in this movie is done really well. Not to the point they try to cancel each other out, but they work together essentially. Or like I've highlighted the more comedic aspects of this movie, like Jeffrey mucking about in the store and getting caught by a manager in the nude, and the more dramatic moments is definitely, in my opinion, the most prevalent in the movie. Particularly, Jeffrey Manchester is essentially a super paranoid person who constantly looks over his own shoulder and pretty much is having a much more harder and harder time to maintain his double life as a runaway thief and pretty much a love interest for Lee, being betrayed by Kirsten Dunst in this movie. As in, he's pretty much, the longer the relationship drags on, the more he's pretty much almost having some difficulties trying to maintain it. Well, of course, there's some very interesting ways how they go about it, being like, oh, he does this, oh, he does that, and oh, he does this, while trying to please Lee and, of course, her two daughters, while also still squatting in a Toys R Us store. And the one line that definitely does very interest me in this movie is, of course, when he talks about his double life in the narration. Like, everyone likes the version when I'm out about, I'm visiting church, I'm visiting everyone, I'm nice, I'm the hero, I'm what everyone likes about me. As for Jeffrey, I'm just a a crooked thief. Even particularly for most of the film, when Jeffrey is thieving around, he does it in mostly in a very compassionate way, as in, "Hello, I'm just gonna rob you," in a very nonchalant manner and a very calm manner, and a bit of a bizarre demeanor that made around some suspicions, particularly of how calm he deals with the situation and how really polite he is most of the time. Particularly like, "Okay, now you go to the freezers. Wait, you haven't brought your coat? Okay, fine. Here's my coat. I'm just gonna rob you, so just stay put right there." And he's just very bizarrely so nonchalant about it. Like, he's very calm and collected about it. Like, yeah, like, I feel like it somewhat breaks the stereotype of thievery a little bit, but I'm not sure we should encourage thievery anyway. And there's one aspect in this movie which really annoyed me a little bit, is Kirsten Dunst's character Lee pretty much ignores possibly most, if not most, of the red flags in this movie about Jeffrey, as in, like, he carries like a large wad of cash, which is again a titty bit suspicious. His dangerous driving in the scene where he test drives a used car and just excels the speed limit and just does brake and skids across the road, which I find really odd. And video games disappearing when he since he's turned up in her life, like, and also, which I've also written a list on my journal a little bit. And also, she's hasn't ever been to where he lives, even though he did say, like, "Oh, it's a nondescript housing near a government agency," and also keeps up a lie that he lives in a government agency, basically works with a government agency, even though I don't think any of the townsfolk were that super convinced about that, which may be another red flag. And the final red flag is that he said that, "Oh, Mitch, your boss, he called me that your shifts have been rearranged," which I feel like is a bit, again, of a humongous red flag. Like, how many red flags is this lady going to ignore before you're going to have to call police and just interrogate him a little bit further? Like, where do you get that large lump of cash again? Did you know anything about these missing video games? And how do you know Mitch, my boss at Toys R Us? And where do you live exactly? How do you know all this? Like, it kind of eggs me off a little bit. Like, you kind of should put two and two together at this point. Just throwing it out there. And of course we have the epilogue scene at the end, where it takes a very interesting turn, as in it takes more of a documentary route about that chronicles the life and of course the criminal activities of Jeffrey Manchester. Not just he is revealed that he not just robbed McDonald's and squatted in a Toys R Us, but he also robbed some Burger King joints and of course Blockbuster. Rest in peace. And of course it does talk about all the people that are affected there, like the McDonald's manager who he lended the coat to. Of course it talks about the town pastor who had a close relationship with until he realized that, "Oh, you're a thief? Okay, I do feel grace for you, but I don't support your ideas," which is again some really good ideas about compassion, particularly what the real pastor did say about Jeffrey Manchester, about his time with him when he was with that church. And of course it talks to the real Lee. Again, it does defend the fact that she knew nothing about Jeffrey's activities until pretty much near the very end, where all the red flags seem to be popping up all at once. Which again I found really amazing. Of course, the photos of his previous family, of course the family he pretty much sits in with a little bit, and of course a lot of newsreels about all these events happening. Like the Roofman is still on the run. Like, they've caught the Roofman, or the Roofman's doing this and that. Like, it pretty much goes to show that even in the age before social media like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. I have them. It pretty much shows the weirdly sensationalist attitude of like the media industry, particularly of that one person, and how he pretty much throws it back to him when he says earlier in the movie, like, the media would not pay attention to you after a week, and they probably would just move on from it because people would just get bored. But in actuality, the media seemed to be a bit of a craze for him, even particularly in the fact that he's been squatting in at Toys R Us for like 6 months or something like that. Although there was definitely a couple things that did bug me in this movie, particularly Lee's total ignorance of red flags. But I feel like this movie does work well as a comedy and does work even better in my opinion as a drama movie as well, even though both genres wise in that movie do work pretty well in my movie, but I feel like the dramatic stuff pretty much stood out for me in my opinion. It's pretty much about a criminal who's trying to live a double life and pretty much struggling to balance that the longer he stays in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he just wants redemption from others and just wants change for himself, despite his very bizarre methods of how he robs McDonald's and pretty much squats in a Toys R Us. Despite being a strange story, but some may pass it off as fictional, but again, this is a true story, if not a very bizarre true story about one of the most out there thieves and one of the most cunning thieves pretty much to exist. So for Roofman, I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 on this one. So, what do you think of Roofman? Let me know in the comments down below, subscribe to my channel, like this video. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter, and this is Elijah Wells, and bye.